Hey, this is Sonja Nicole from the Shetobu tribe and IKDS. You know, people are always saying that their last names are slave names, but they don't realize that the people that came here from Europe, from Asia, from Africa, wherever they came from, they had names that belonged to the indigenous people of whatever continent they were on or country they came from. So saying that your last name is a slave name is giving your last name, your lineage, your ancestors, you're against them, basically. And these ancestors are not Caucasian all the time, as most people would have you to believe. Just because your last name, you've got it in your mind that your last name is a Caucasian last name. It's not true, okay? These last names that come from Ireland, British last names, the original people with these last names were indigenous people. The names that are slave names are the titles that you have, like Black, Latino, Hispanic. These are the slave names, not the last names that you have, because the people were free nationals. So there's no way that your last name is a slave name when the people who it comes from were free nationals. Even though I'm not going to say that nobody, experienced a situation where that last name was forced on them or something of that nature, but a lot of the people who came here, even from Europe, and had slaves themselves, were indigenous people. They were called mulatto, and mulatto did not mean half African and half Caucasian. That's not what mulatto was. I would be considered a mulatto here in America because I have 4 different nationalities: Asian, African, American, and European. When I say European, I'm not talking about Caucasian. People have a problem. They're always saying or believing that European means Caucasian, and it does not. The indigenous people of Europe were just like, look just like me or anyone else of my hue or darker indigenous person, period. Everyone is always saying, oh, we're all Africans, but we are not. We are not all from the continent of Africa. Life was created on every continent. That story about people, everyone coming from Africa and populating the world, is not the story of indigenous people. When this took place, this was a created people who went out and populated the world with their seed, because in each continent, the original people are oppressed, okay? And they most of the time don't know who they are, and still to this day, they're going around trying to tell them they're from Africa. So everyone who subscribes to that is helping to remove indigenous people from their lands everywhere else except for in Africa. And there are people who are interested in Africa's resources, and you're helping them to get it. So in all of your, pro-Black, whatever you want to call it, I was there, been there, done that, okay? But in all of that, what you are actually doing is you are against your people and you're supporting white supremacy. Now, I don't like to talk about that, white supremacy, because the definition of white is actually, it's like a flip-flop to even, talk about that like it's, has something to do with The condition is a problem in your damn mind. That's where the condition is. But because the definition legally of white is someone from North Africa, okay, or the Middle East and all of that. Now we know, if you know anything about history, you know that these are places where there were indigenous people who were Africans, who were basically pushed out, if not killed, off of their land. Just the same way as how it has been everywhere else in America, in Asia, everywhere. Same story everywhere. And I just don't understand how people, who call themselves, pro-black, can ignore the fact and can subscribe to someone's theory, a theory done by someone who doesn't even look like them at all, okay? A theory done by someone who they consider to be part of a so-called racial group that is, oppressive, okay? It's really crazy how people do that. You have a fit. It's like it's the only thing you can hold on to, and you can't go past that. Like, you just cannot go past that. But just because you can't go past that, you're not going to be able to activate the best of your ancestors within you, because all you do is hold on to the misery of what you believe took place based on the damn TV show that you saw or movie or whatever, or the history that someone wrote for you, rather than tracing your lineage and finding out what's going on and what runs through your veins, okay, and finding out the truth, or even having a desire to find the truth. It's sickening to me. I understand the concept of, okay, the one people. Yeah, we're one indigenous people. We all come from the same one DNA. But the concept of accepting a title just because it's been glamorized is like somebody who ain't got no money who wants a damn Gucci bag, okay? And that's all you're trying to do is just, you want to hold this damn Gucci bag. So you want to just hold on to this title because it's, it's glamorized. Like you don't know what is taking place. Okay, even as far as the whole situation with the COINTELPRO. They, have a lot of propaganda out there for you. And because of the lack of judgment, the lack of using your better sense and feeling that bit of, community involvement with other people just based on that, without changing in your mind your status to something that is of light. And I don't mean that by color, but I mean that by something that is considered living. It's like you're just doing yourself an injustice. See, the gene is immortal, and the gene is activated by so many different things. It's like you can activate a gene by something you eat. You can activate a gene by things that you take part in, and you can activate these ancestors and this DNA within you, the greatness within you. And your ancestors will lead you to greatness. They'll lead you to wealth. They'll lead you to so much if you just acknowledge them, but instead people want to hang on to this slave title, which is the black, slave title. And that's not just the only slave title that was created. Latino, Hispanic, other slave titles. These are not, there is no country by these names. There is no people in a country that are by these names unless they agree to be this, because it was placed upon them to hinder them, to disconnect them from their lineage, so that they do not honor their mothers and fathers, so that they do not go very far in life. Okay? Everything has been flipped, and nobody is really, well, there are people who are doing it, and I see the difference. There's a big difference from going from that mindset into the higher mindset of understanding your lineage and understanding where you come from. None of us all have the same story, so there is no, cookie cutter thing in this. I have 4 different nationalities in me that creates who I am. You may have 3, you may have 2, you may have a different combination, okay? I don't have any, as far as I know, I don't have any like Hawaiian or Guam or anything like that. You may have that, but this is something that was put on us by people who wanted to create a black condition for you, and your ancestors fought against this black condition, and you glamorize it and glorify it and hold on to it like it's all that you know of yourself. And you don't even try to find anything deeper regarding your own bloodline and your own lineage. And that's the craziness. That's the craziness about it. And otherwise, these are people who are doing this who would otherwise be considered highly educated people. But then you have to think, who educated you on top of that? So, this is the new zombie. This is the new the people that you can't get through to. You can't educate these people to a higher level beyond what was given to them, and they don't understand that even the things that they believe about everyone coming from one continent. I love Africa. Africa is in me as well, okay? The thing about it is that everyone is being removed from their continent. All of the ancestors are being dishonored, and people wonder why they're in the condition that they're in on a global scale, because people do not acknowledge their mother and their father, okay? They don't acknowledge them. And your mother and your father is not just, limited to the 2 people that created you and brought you into this world, because you're 10% of each of them, and then 40% from each of their gene pools, from their mother and father, on both sides. And that's what creates you. And you never know who you are, or which one of these ancestors that you don't know you are. And if you have ancestors that you do not acknowledge because all you want to acknowledge is a slave story, and you don't know that these people were not slaves. They were not just born slaves. They had a story before all of that took place, or even during the time that took place, maybe they never were, because everyone just ended up with that, the title. Everyone ended up with the title black eventually, and it was just by sight. That's how they did it. And the ancestors fought against that, against being removed from their nationality and from their land. Now, when you search for your ancestors, they will guide you back into what they had, and they will bring that back to you. I'm not going to go too deep into it, but all I'm going to say is that if you don't research your own lineage, and you don't reach out to what runs in your veins, your mothers and fathers, and honor them, instead of just being lazy about it and just honoring something that somebody told you, somebody that don't even look like you, as a matter of fact. I mean, there's all kinds of stories, but that's just part of the damn story. So acknowledge all of your ancestors. The indigenous people of Europe who came here, some of them also had slaves. They had Caucasian slaves, and they had slaves that were considered black, which were the stolen children who didn't know who they were, where they came from, whatever. And they told them that they came on ships from Africa to detach them and their whole bloodline and lineage from the land. So, at some point, there was a law that was created that said that they could no longer have Caucasian slaves. So that's when the whole